I'm Howard Bragman, and thanks for joining us today on this episode of Gwissues. Today, we're very lucky to have my friend Jeanne Phillips, who's known to hundreds of millions of people around the world as Dear Abby. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be with you, Howie. Anytime I'm with you.
Oh, well, it's good to have you here virtually. I'm going to get right into it. You write Dear Abby, which is the most popular advice column in the world, yes?
Yes, I do, and thank you for the compliment.
How many papers you in these days?
About 1,400, according to my syndicate.
Okay, and close to 100 million people a day read Dear Abby's advice, yes?
110 million people a day read Dear Abby.
That's good. So you've been, and the column was founded by your mother, Pauline.
Yes, it was, in 1956.
I was founded in 1956. Funny. And how did you get involved with the column?
It started when I was a teenager. I wanted an allowance. And I went to my mom one day and said, "Mommy, I need an allowance." And her comment was, "And what do you plan to do for it?" And I said, "Gee, I don't know." And we had a housekeeper who, washed the dishes and cleared the table, so I wasn't needed for that. So my mom said, "I have an idea. I get letters from teenagers, people your age, and I'm going to save some up for you, and you can answer them, and if they're good, I'll sign them, and if they're not, you're going to do them over." And I did my share of doing them over and over and over. But that's how I started. I earned my allowance.
And let me ask you, 100 million people turning to you every day, it's a lot of responsibility. Do you ever get it wrong? You ever look back and go, "Oh, I can't believe I said that"?
Maybe I'm not as hard on myself as you just were. But
I'm gentle.
However, I certainly have apologized for an answer and said, people disagreed with me on this. And I print those letters because I think it's only fair to give the other side a chance to express themselves. I consider the column to be a dialogue with readers. I don't consider it to be a monologue, and I don't consider myself to be the Oracle of Delphi. What I say doesn't necessarily go. I'm just rendering an opinion.
You have a long and very positive relationship with the gay community. And it's interesting because your column is always thought of as common sense, which in some ways people think is conservative, yet your mother was very supportive of gay rights as far back as I could tell, 1981. Is that ring true?
Earlier than that. My mother was very interested in psychology, and I am my mother's daughter. I mean, these are the things I learned when I was growing up. People are people. People are people. I don't think it's right to blame people for who they are. Homosexuality is as natural to homosexual as it is heterosexuality is to a heterosexual. I think the wiring is just maybe a little, but the people are the same.
In today's world, you said you're getting more mail than ever about gay issues. Yes?
Yes, I perhaps because people are not afraid to talk about it, because so many people are talking about it now because of the political situation in this country with the marriage laws changing, hip hip hooray. Yes, I think that the subject is on the minds and out of the mouths of people more than ever, which I think is a healthy thing. The kind of problems that I'm hearing about now are interfamily or interrelationship problems. Should I come out to my family? Well, of course, the answer is yes, unless you want to hide from them and from yourself who you really are for the rest of your life. Talking about the reaction of family to a person's sexuality.
You received a Straight for Equality award from PFLAG, and yet you've had your share of detractors too. There's a right-wing organization called the Culture and Media Institute, and then their words are, she is a disciple of the sexual revolution. What do you think of that? I always, I haven't seen you in the high heels with the whip, so it's hard to me to think of you as the disciple of the sexual revolution.
I consider myself perhaps a daughter of the sexual evolution, which means really, in my opinion, that I try to view life realistically. And after the 1960s, whether these people want to admit it or not, a lot of things in our society have changed. We're not as uptight about sex as we used to. We're more open about what we've always been doing. It's not that my generation necessarily has been doing a hell of a lot more than what previous generations did. We've just been a little more open about it. There's less shame involved.
Is there any last bit of common sense advice you want to tell gay people and gay adjacent people who might be watching about their life and where you see it going and how to fit in and feel comfortable in their skin? Because a lot of gay people grew up with a lot of shame. Even kids who are coming out now, there's still a lot of hatred and homophobia out there. What's your best common sense advice?
Very important for all of us, gay or straight, to live an authentic life. You have to be who you are. And if you have negative people around you, change the people around you. That's my advice, because you have to accept who you are. And people do better when they're around people who accept them for who they are. Fortunately, today, there are more people who understand homosexuality than there used to be. My mother did her part. I'm trying to do my part to help people understand that gay people are just the same as everybody else. So live your life the way you want to live your life. Don't be ashamed of who you are. Who you are is just fine. The people who are being so critical and so closed-minded, who really should be ashamed.
This has been wonderful, enlightening. I feel better already talking to you. You're like my therapist.
Oh, honey.
My dear friend, Jeanne Phillips, Dear Abby. Make sure you catch her every day. You can catch her in 1,400 newspapers. You can catch her online on Yahoo. And if you're, a friend like me, you're lucky enough to have dinner sometime and get that great advice, one-on-one. Jeanne, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for letting me be with you, Howie.
That's been our episode of Gwissues with great advice from Dear Abby. Please join us for this episode and look at some of our other episodes at Gwissues on Gwist TV. Thanks.